Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores or estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I'm always looking for things that I personally find are interesting, or that I think you guys would find interesting. And then I bring them home, try and find out as much as I can about them, and then tell you guys about them. And I've got something kind of interesting today. It is a glass goblet. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that you'd think that this doesn't really look like much, but there's more going on with it. I actually bought a set of these. There's two of them. I bought them in a thrift store for $3 each. That is definitely more than I would like to spend or whatever on a set, but I ended up testing these with my blacklight and found that both of them had a very strong kind of like lime green response. So this is actually manganese glass. Usually glass that has a very strong kind of response is usually better quality, I found, and it's definitely more interesting, or there's definitely something going on with it. Like the glass that has almost no like fluorescence under a black light, that tends to be the boring modern stuff. So having the black light and just kind of scanning across stuff definitely does kind of help me to highlight kind of things that might be interesting. And I ended up picking this up and I thought, that is so cool. That like the design is really interesting. The base is really kind of interesting and organic. It is pressed glass, yes, but it's interesting pressed glass. You can see the seams there. Now, why is there only one on camera, Claire? And I think you guys can guess at the answer. The other one got broken. I ended up dropping them. I ended up dropping both. The other one did not survive. This one now has a chunk taken out of it there. You can just about see it. Yeah. I am occasionally very clumsy, unfortunately. Yeah, okay. Anyway, before we do anything else, I'm going to measure this up. I did actually realize that I didn't measure up the Fitz and Floyd heron cup and saucer I did the other day. I'm really sorry about that. If you guys want to know the measurements of it, I highly recommend you go look up the actual entry on replacements.com. They're usually pretty good about putting up measurements. So this is about 5.5 inches tall, and just with the thickness just shy of 3 inches across. Now the cool thing is that you might think that this is kind of like, obviously it's glass, and definitely this kind of olive kind of colored glass from, you know, the 70s is definitely kind of the tougher stuff to identify because there was so much of it. I just had a very good feeling about it, that it was going to be something interesting. It did take quite a bit of Googling to figure it out, but I did manage it eventually. So I just want you to know, if you do see this in a thrift store, especially if you see it in colors other than olive green, definitely take a look at it. It is good stuff. One thing I can emphasize as well is that, first of all, the surface is very nicely textured. You can just about see it there. That texture on the outside. And the other thing about it is that it's remarkably heavy. Like, there is quite a bit of weight to that base, you know? Like, when I dropped it, it fell hard. There's no coming back from that. There is a lot of weight in that base. The other one actually, like essentially the entire base right there just completely shattered. The whole thing broke off. Make that what you will. Anyway. So what this actually is, what I found out after quite a bit of Googling, this is, believe it or not, glass that was made for Franciscan pottery. This is a glass that was made by Tiffin glass, called the Madeira pattern, and it was made specifically for Franciscan. And it came in a bunch of different colors. Incredibly pretty, I have to say. There was the whole kind of series or whatever that they did. I found some information here. So basically in 1969, after Franciscan was sold to Interpace, Interpace acquired Tiffin Glass from Continental Can Company in 1969, and essentially at that point Tiffin Glass started to make a few lines of this kind of cool kind of mid-century glass or whatever to go with the Franciscan earthenware. And there's 3 lines listed here: Madeira, Cabaret, and Alfresco. There's a little bit of information, not a whole lot, I'm afraid. Basically, it'd be like Tiffin just used some of their own stuff or whatever, or just kind of developed their own molds, and it was a little from column A, a little from column B. In 1979, Tiffin glass was sold to Towel silversmiths and renamed Tiffin crystal. All patterns created for Franciscan were discontinued. They were only producing this stuff for about 10 years, 1969 to 1979. And then after that, it was game over for Tiffin, and that was the end of it. Now, the cool thing is that we've got actually the information, like the actual designer of the Madeira glass prototypes. We have Roger Dera Carrere, and then Mary Jane Winhams actually created the prototypes. And the original glass prototypes weighed 2 to 3 pounds. I can tell there's so much weight in this. Yeah, so there's a little list here of like the different colors and when they were discontinued, which is very good for us because obviously it means that we can look out for these different patterns. And you can definitely see here that they did some really honestly lovely ones. I think the amethyst is probably the nicest. Or possibly the blue, I gotta say. Bit of a fan. The blue's got a lot going on. But yeah, like they're really, really pretty. Now, obviously, because we've got replacements.com, here we go. Now, they said the olive green is 1973 to 1976. I'm not sure about that. I think this might have been produced a little bit longer than the rest, but still nice enough. We can identify this as being similar to that, or is it actually, no, that's a little bit too short. These are the water goblet. That looks to be the right height. There we go, 5.5 inches with 2 3/4 inches. That's close. That's about as good as I think as we're going to get. So this is the water goblet, out of stock. And yeah, now here's the thing, considering that I bought 2 of these for $6 and subsequently broke one of them and damaged the other, so this, by the way, is probably going back to the thrift store. I'm not going to be able to keep it, and probably no one's going to want it if it's got a chip taken out of the side of it that's kind of obvious. Yeah, so what's the market like for this stuff? And the good news is that the market for it, well, good news for everybody else, not so much for me, the market's very good. Like, you can see that a lot of people are selling these glasses, and they're selling them for nice kind of, like, there's a lot of best offer accepted, but they're selling it for kind of good money as well. Here's a set there, 7 water glass goblets, and they're going for, yeah, pretty good. I could probably have sold the 2 of these, I would say, for maybe $15-20 Canadian. Maybe, you know, maybe, because I'm pretty sure that like the bigger sets or whatever are going to, like, per glass, they're gonna go for a little less because you're getting more of them. Like, if you just want the 2, obviously you're not going to go and buy 7, you know. So yeah, I probably could have made, you know, kind of nice little bit of money on it. They are, especially I think if I had the blues or whatever. Here you go, 2 of them sold for $28 Canadian. Like, definitely popular. I'm still undecided between them and the amethyst. But yeah, now this is sold wise, we have 89 results. On eBay right now, Tiffin Madeira has maybe like over 300. Market is there, market is strong. And I've only myself to blame because I went and broke one of them and then damaged the other. Now, having said all that, I would say it's very likely that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for this design in the future, especially knowing that there is some kind of a market for them. And if you can get them for like $1 or $2 a piece, it's definitely worthwhile. Like, I think old and vintage glassware is, I mean, I don't know how people kind of feel about it in general. I personally really like it. And I think that, you know, I think there's definitely a market there for it. I think it's coming back, or like this olive stuff, perhaps even, I know that's not really popular or whatever, but I think maybe it could be making a comeback. It seems to be about the right time for it in like the late 70s. But yeah, this is just going to be a reminder that I really need to be more careful in the future and not drop, you know, vintage glassware that'll, you know, has been discontinued and there's now 2 less of them in the world. Good job, me. So this is my small joyful thing for the day. I hope you guys like it as well. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.